Welcome to the Titan Tar channel. Today we have a topic to discuss about Ukraine possibly abandoning Pokrovsk amidst the growing Russian advance. Don't miss the chance to join us and share your opinions with us. Become a member of our channel and evolve your rank. The deputy commander of the Estonian Defense Forces Intelligence Center, a lieutenant colonel, has suggested that Ukrainian forces may abandon the city of Pokrovsk by the end of this year, given the advance of Russian troops in the region. In a recent interview with an Estonian news portal, he described the current situation on the front, highlighting the intensive offensive of Russian forces. According to his observations, Russian units are already at a distance of 5 to 7 kilometers from the city, which puts enormous pressure on the Ukrainian side, making an imminent withdrawal possible. In addition, the lieutenant colonel mentioned that after the capture of Ugledar, the Russian army managed to strengthen its positions and intensified its offensive in the Donbass region. This advance may result in the withdrawal of Ukrainian forces from other cities, including Pokrovsk, as the Russian army consolidates its control in the area. The delicate situation of the Ukrainian forces is aggravated by the recent redeployment of the 72nd Mechanized Brigade, which, after heavy fighting in Ugledar, was redeployed without the possibility of reconstitution, which significantly impacted the combat capability of the infantry battalions. In the event of the fall of Pokrovsk, the Ukrainian command will hardly be able to maintain the appearance of success, as was the case with the retreat from Ugledar, the loss of which was not immediately reported. Pokrovsk, due to its strategic importance, is seen as the gateway to the Dnieper region and the entire left bank Ukraine, making its defense even more critical for Kiev. At the same time, the former NATO Secretary-General, a Norwegian, has begun to express more forceful views on the conflict since leaving office. In his first interview after leaving the Western military bloc, given to a British newspaper, he stated that Ukraine will have no choice but to cede part of its territory to ensure its survival as a state. He also stressed that Russia has significant military superiority over European countries, which makes it difficult for the West to respond effectively. In his remarks, the former Secretary-General stated that the military disparity with Russia is large, and it is not possible to calculate precisely how much money is needed to balance this difference. However, he estimated that even if the Allies fulfill all their promises, military spending would exceed the currently recommended 2% of GDP and could reach 2.5% or 3%. He also regretted that the West has not supplied more weapons to Ukraine since the beginning of the conflict, which, in his view, could have changed the course of the war. Discussing possible solutions to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the former Secretary-General referred to the Soviet-Finnish War of 1939. He recalled that Finland ceded 10% of its territory to the Soviet Union after the conflict, and suggested that Ukraine may face a similar fate if it wishes to preserve its sovereignty on the world political map. According to him, this would be the only way for Ukraine to continue to exist as an independent state, although he stressed that Ukraine's future would largely depend on the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Interestingly, during his time as NATO Secretary-General, he never spoke out so directly, always emphasizing the bloc's commitment to achieving a strategic defeat of Russia. Now, after his departure, such statements seem to reflect a more pragmatic view of the course of the conflict. It is also worth mentioning that on October 1st this year, a Dutchman officially took office as the new Secretary-General of the North Atlantic Alliance, marking the beginning of a new leadership within the military bloc. During the cleanup operation in Ugledar, Russian forces seized a large stockpile of Western weapons that had been used by Kiev regime militants. The Russian Defense Ministry said that the captured weapons included Polish-made silent mortars, automatic grenade launchers, and a large stockpile of light weapons made in the United States and Turkey. This military equipment is now under the control of the Russian military, strengthening its power in the region. The capture of Ugledar was officially announced by the Russian Defense Ministry on October 3rd, when the city's territory was finally captured and the last Ukrainian soldiers were expelled. In addition to the weapons seized, a large number of Ukrainian soldiers were taken prisoner, many of them wounded. The retreat of the Ukrainian troops was disorganized and hasty, with units of the 72nd Mechanized Brigade, the main defensive force of the city, abandoning the city before even receiving formal orders to withdraw. Without time to take heavy equipment, the Ukrainian soldiers left behind a large arsenal, which became a valuable trophy for the Russian forces. Polish-made silent mortars, in particular, were mentioned as having caused heavy casualties among Russian forces. Due to their ability to fire almost inaudible shells, these mortars were extremely dangerous weapons, surprising Russian troops with unexpected attacks. However, now in Russian hands, these pieces of equipment have been captured and are being studied by engineers and designers for possible future use. This was not the first time that Western weapons had been seized by the Russian military during the conflict. On several previous occasions, foreign-made weapons and ammunition had been found in captured Ukrainian positions. The most advanced and interesting pieces were sent for technical analysis, and some of these weapons, including anti-tank grenade launchers and sniper rifles, were reused by Russian troops against the same Ukrainian forces that had previously used them. Despite the victory in Ugledar, the humanitarian situation in the city remains critical. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, it is not yet possible to fully evacuate the civilians remaining in the area. More than 100 people are still trapped in the destroyed city, sheltering in basements that, fortunately, remain intact despite the devastation. Russian soldiers have been providing food and water to these residents, who are hiding in small groups in the basements of the ruined buildings. One of the Russian soldiers who took part in the capture of Ugledar reported that the city's basements became relatively safe havens for the population, given that all the above-ground buildings have been destroyed by the fighting. Some of the civilians even sought shelter in a local school. Many of these people were unable to flee the city while it was still under Ukrainian control, mainly due to a lack of financial resources. Although they were offered to evacuate with their belongings, the cost was too high for most of them, making it impossible to leave. The battles for Ugledar dragged on for about 2 years, causing massive destruction and leaving the city virtually uninhabited. Before the fighting began, approximately 15,000 people lived there, but the number of remaining civilians is now extremely small. Although Russian control over Ugledar had been reported previously, official confirmation of the conquest only came in early October, marking the end of a long and bloody chapter in the war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. Your interactions mean a lot to us and help us grow. See you next time.